Monday, we're going to do a short introduction for you today. So we have on the website on clearwaterbaha'is.org an easy access link you can take on activities and events. The drop-down menu will yield the 7 p.m. Monday roadmap link. You can click on that. It will take you right to our Zoom session on Mondays at 7 p.m. and they run until about 8 or 8:30. So it really depends on the depth of the questions and our desire to stay there to address them. With that being said, the topic today, an introduction to a roadmap for a moral society, it is presented by Mr. Gilbert Hakim. He is the founder and CEO of SCC Soft Computer, a company that is recognized widely as a leading figure in the field of laboratory information systems. He has been at the forefront of LIS innovation since the late 1970s and continues to push the boundaries in genetics-based LIS and workflow automation. Known for his hands-on approach, Mr. Hakim is often found at client sites, interfacing with laboratorians, clinical diagnosticians, and medical professionals to gain valuable insights that inform SCC's vision. Okay. As a philanthropist, Mr. Hakim is also dedicated to giving back to the community. He has made charitable contributions to various organizations through his charitable Golden Age Foundation. In addition to his philanthropic efforts, he has also become the founder of oceanlibrary.com. It is a custom ebook reader designed for exploration and study of the sacred literature, the sacred scriptures of the world's religious traditions. The platform often offers a simple cross-platform reading experience with an immersive audio-integrated reading experience and useful study and research tools. Now, it is constantly in development and always making new changes, and we welcome always the input that all the users have as it becomes better and better every day. Mr. Hakim graduated from Stony Brook University with a Bachelor of Science in Physics and a Master of Science in Computer Science and Applied Mathematics. He founded SCC Soft Computer in 1979 with the goal of providing innovative and practical technological solutions to the healthcare industry, primarily in the clinical laboratory. Today, SCC has grown into a global organization of over 2,000 IT, medical technology, communications, and business professionals, all dedicated to the design, development, delivery, implementation, and support of robust integrated information management system solutions for the laboratory and genetics marketplace. Throughout this growth, Mr. Hakim has remained actively involved in all aspects of the company, providing the driving vision for ongoing product development through his knowledge of IT advancements, the role of molecular diagnostics, personalized medicine, and the needs of the hospital laboratory.
John,
now,
we better shorten this. Thank you very much for the introduction, but I'm thinking it's best to start the talk. Thank you.
All right. Please, everyone, if you're joining on YouTube or on Facebook, please leave your comments and questions. We're going to be having times during this discussion that we'll have questions to clarify any points you may have. Please put your comments here in the Zoom chat, and we will, at a good point, interrupt the flow so we can ask those questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to present to you today. What are the goals? Is to entice really individuals to examine their positions on any ethical or moral laws and determine for themselves where they got these ideas and how it was formed, whether it's right or wrong, or it's good or bad for them. Provide a methodology for the individual to examine this, if a law is right or wrong, without prejudice. And entice individuals to align their their likes and dislikes to, which is good or bad, to right and wrong. So it would benefit themselves and the society at the same time. So what is society? Is a group of individuals involved in persistent social interaction, or a large social group sharing the same special or social territories, typically subject to same political authority and dominant culture expectation. Ethics generally is definition of morality or intentions, decisions and actions between those that are distinguished as proper and those that are improper. So it's right or wrong. Morality can be body of standards or principles derived from a code of conduct, from a particular philosophy, religion, or culture. So this ethics and moral philosophy is a branch of philosophy involved in systematizing, defending, and recommending concept of right and wrong. So these are really key elements that we are trying to examine today. Rights, what is the implication of rights? Any law and to promote unity, creation of equity, promotes justice, produces amity, advanced civilization, elimination of prejudices, and so on. Wrong is always a law that creates harm to society or individual, creates disunity, does not promote equality under the law, discrimination against minorities, promotes favoritism, promotes nationalism, and so on. So the question is that when we're making these decisions or examining these laws, what do we rely on to form our opinion? Rely on forefathers' culture or religion, which automatically has become a reactionary, reflexive reactionary of people without even thinking whether their action is right or wrong. Or rely on our preference, which is what is good for me or bad for me. Rely on feelings or senses of perception. Again, it makes me feel good when I talk about it. Rely on society, secular law, where majority obviously accepted that. Relied on majority beliefs, whether it's social or religious beliefs. Rely on leaders of society or ecclesiastical structures. Rely on applicability to self. If it doesn't apply to me, why should I care? And or rely on self-preservation. There must be a better way, obviously, for us to examine our beliefs and try to find a way for ourselves to know what is right or wrong. Obviously, we're not here to promote basically good or bad. We're trying to see and entice people to actually have the knowledge of what is right or wrong. Obviously, individual decisions are based on individuals' needs and desires. So the question really comes back to see, can we actually scientifically create a methodology that to reach a conclusion to what is right or wrong without prejudice? And can actually that formula exist? So we don't rely on anybody and we do independent investigation of the truth ourselves. So we come with the concept of efficient cause, which is basically most beneficial outcome of a law with lowest cost, basically. An outcome-based methodology of impact to the individuals and or society. And we have to examine rights of individual versus rights of society as well. So basically, we're discussing do's and don'ts and see, is there a tool we can deploy to find out whether something is right and we should do it, or we should be prohibited from doing other things. So let's look at chronology of some of the Western society events and achievement in 20th century, which obviously we believe, because we live in Western society, that we're the most advanced culture on earth, generally, and see what the history of the 20th century was, whether through these trials and error, did we produce a moral society that is in cohesion with the environment and people are generally happy or not? So let's see what happened. Starting from basically early 1900s, we had a World War I, which lasted about 4 years. Then League of Nations was created, which was an achievement in terms of creating an intercommunication of states that didn't exist before. Women's voting rights in August 18, 1920. Public schools in the United States began in early 1920s. Abolition of child labor was in June of 2nd of 1924. World War II started. Was a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945. Then United States came about, which was in 1945. And then in 1948, we created Declaration of Human Rights. After that, obviously, civil rights movement in the United States, which freed discrimination against race in the United States, which lasted from 1954 to 1968. And then the world economy became increasingly financially integrated in the 80s and 90s due to capital account liberalization and financial deregulation. Gender equality between 1970s started, and then up to 2018, but in recent decades, change has slowed or stalled completely. Now let's see from a revelation perspective, Baha'u'llah, which was born in 1817 and is a founder of Baha'i religion. In mid-1800, what was he recommending and basically enticing adherents to the Baha'i religion to comply and exercise the laws that he brought in and claimed to be the latest revelation from God? So what did he promote in mid-1800s? Abolition of war, Declaration of Human Rights, equality of man and woman, women's voting rights, mandatory child education, abolition of child labor, equality of all races, creation of an international tribunal, creation of an international economic system and governance. So as you see, Revelation has played a massive role in events that occurred, and violation of those revelations had consequences that reached humanity and had devastating effects. So what is happiness? Actually, obviously, everybody's after to be happy. Is our happiness depends on others? Is there a roadmap to be a positive influence on lives of others? Can we buy happiness? So how can we achieve this? Now, Abdul-Baha mentions true happiness is found in spiritual behavior. So this moral society is the goal of both secular society and religious societies at the same time. So it's not something unique to religion. Everybody is basically following the route to achieve it in general. Now, where are we today? A dark, oppressive dust had overtaken and enveloped the whole world. The panoply of true meanings of action had been folded up, and panoply of empty words and utterances has been spread out in its stead. Say, oh friend, I swear by the Son of Truth that this is the day for action. Should a soul today perform the merest jot of good, he shall continue to reap the reward thereof as long as earth and heaven will endure. So this is really the position where not only utterances, whether it's in education, whether it's in science, whether it's in arts or politics or healthcare, we need to adhere to what we say. And obviously all the goals of many different denominations are exactly the same. The problem is no one is adhering to what they say in general. So how can we create an ark of safety? And this is Abdul Wahaz. Verily, I pray God to make thee firm in this path, to cause thee to enter the ark of safety, and to strengthen thee in becoming humble and meek to the maidservants of the merciful, and is overcoming self and passion through the power from God. So what tools do we have? Obviously, we don't want to rely on somebody's opinion or authority to tell us what is right or wrong. So what are the scientific tools that we have? Artificial intelligence, concept of efficient cause, and concept of Holy Spirit, which is revelation itself. These are the tools that we have individually, and we don't need to rely on anybody or this issue regarding basically pupil and teacher and pupil. So what is AI and machine learning language? Artificial intelligence is basically ability of a digital computer or computer controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent being. The term is frequently applied to projects of developing systems endowed with the intellectual process characteristics of human, such as the ability to reason, discover meaning, generalize, or learn from past experience. So we want to use the same methodology, although we may not use the computer at this point, but the reality is we can see, for example, equality of man and woman. We can go into the forensically into the history of mankind of 19th and 20th century and see those countries and societies that apply this revelations law of equality of man and woman. What happened to them? Those societies that gradually applied it are most advanced, or the ones that didn't are the most backward. So we can tell by looking at the data of events that occurred related to that specific axiom or law, and we can calculate and find out what were the consequences or benefits of applying that law. And we saw the revelation was basically close to a century ahead of the application of those laws in the Western culture in general. So machine learning language, again, is to create, is in the context of decision making, is an algorithm that deciphers binary decision by looking back at a massive history of variables, outcomes, to see which combination yield a positive or negative result. So ultimately, we want to know whether equality of man and woman is an efficient cause, and basically prove that whether it is right or wrong. Now, many Muslim countries today say, no, this is wrong, because our forefathers said so. And obviously, you see that most of them are the most backward countries. morally, economically, socially, and so on. So the reality is that we can create that equation that over 90% it can predict the outcome. And for example, a banker wants to decide if he should loan money to an individual, and he checks to see his database of past 100 years, prior borrowers, and feeds it to the machine. And the machine would come back and looks at parameters like the age of the person, the ownership of certain assets, whether the loan was get paid back or not, and basically, so they can feed this into the machine, and then the machine comes back and see whether all those people that had those criteria paid their loan back. And therefore, he's going to put a formula based on those variables to issue a loan to a person or not. And if he doesn't find the right percentage of success, he adds more variable, whether the guy is married or not, or what kind of education the person has, and so on and so forth. So you see how these machine learning language can come up with a formula that can tell you what the outcome is going to be. So we will discuss, let these not words be your adorning, and we see currently majority of our political and social systems are profession of the excellence of what they're gonna do, but a few years down the road, you see the outcome is not positive and mostly negative in general. So this is this an efficient cause? So in the Baha'i doctrine, you say honesty, virtue, wisdom, and saintly character rebound to the exaltation of man. Why dishonesty, imposture, ignorance, and hypocrisy leads to his abasement. By my life, man's distinction lieth not in ornament or wealth, but rather in virtuous behavior and true understanding. The world showeth forth constancy unto no one, nor ever had it. Strive therefore that during these fleeting days ye may acquire the immortal pearls. Every pure and holy action will assuredly remain preserved in the divine book of record. Blessed the soul who attain unto this station. So should a soul be occupied through his whole life with worship, yet be deprived of those qualities which are the means for the exaltation of the cause of God? Such worship is of avail and shall yield no fruit. Each human being must be adorned with spiritual characteristics, with pure and holy deeds and actions. Whoever faileth so to adorn himself is not reckoned to have attained the human station. So,
excuse me, there's a question that we have.
Now we see
Can you hear me?
Where we are today. Sorry?
Okay. I was saying there's a question that we have for efficient cause. If you could please take a moment to answer this question. I think a lot of people may have the similar question. So Andy here asks for a definition of what is efficient cause.
Sure. You see, remember in mathematics, you see what is the shortest distance between point A and point B in a two-dimensional space. Obviously, there is one which is the shortest distance, and that's the efficient cause. When you go from point A to point B, without is the most efficient answer and the shortest distance. So that is really called efficient cause. Now, obviously, in different environments, if you go into level of the submolecular level, you may have a different formula, but the efficient cause is the same, is applicability of a law that produces the best outcome. Now, we may have a different opinion about it, but the right or wrong are absolute. You can't change them. So you can see is, just as we discussed here before, is equality of man and woman an efficient cause? That means that it promotes, is the fastest way of advancing civilization, because half of your population, if you discriminate against them, obviously is contrary to augmentation of civilization. So you can see efficient cause is really synonymous to Holy Spirit, or basically latest revelation from God. That would be a secular interpretation of it. Was that sufficient?
So to ask in return, so efficient cause would be, in short, for someone to just ask, it would be the most efficient way for something to happen is probably going to happen if the ingredients are there.
Correct. And this is really very interesting process where, ironically, because it's efficient, for example, a common economic system of the world is an efficient cause because it eliminates discrepancy between pricing in different parts of the world. So that is an efficient cause. So that means this is another way of describing rights or wrongs. If something that you're doing is causing harm to the society as a whole, obviously it's not an efficient cause because it's causing harm. So this is a good deed versus words. If you look at, is honesty an efficient cause? Obviously it is, because it creates unity, it creates amity, it promotes collaboration. Virtues, it saves people from harming other people. Wisdom is learning from your past mistakes. Unfortunately, humanity is not very good at it. Saintly character, it's creating nobility in society. And of course, opposite of it is dishonesty that creates mistrust. Imposture creates degradation of character. If you don't use wisdom, you ignore history, ignorance creates harm. And hypocrisy the same way, creates false pretension and deception, which is common in today's society that we live in. So you see that deeds versus words is an efficient cause. And is part of revelation as well. So what we're trying to do here is show that science and religion talks about the same exact thing, and they can predict the same exact elements. Now, the problem is whether right or wrong is applicable or executable is a different story. For example, prohibition of drinking alcohol is an efficient cause. the damage it causes is enormous. You're losing about 40,000 people a year to accident that is caused by under the influence. That's 4 Vietnam wars every year, and nobody says anything. So prohibition of the alcohol is an efficient cause, right? Okay. So let's see those countries that complied or applied a century-old revelations. Who are those countries? You look at Switzerland, which is one of the best countries to live in, has a GDP per capita of 77,000. The next one is Germany. You have basically GDP of 57,000. Now let's see those countries that didn't, went opposite of those revelation or efficient cause or Holy Spirit that we discussed before. Now ranked from 1 to 9, Switzerland, Germany, Canada, United States, Sweden, Japan, Australia, United Kingdom, France. And these are application of democracies that was promoted as well by revelation versus those worst countries, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Sudan, Lebanon, Suriname, Libya, Argentina, Iran, and Angola. So you see there are consequences of violating the efficient cause. And of course, applicability that is causing promotion of just societies. So going back to our conversation, we're talking about right versus wrong, which is absolute, good versus bad, which is relative to individuals. So can we examine moral laws, basically? Can we determine if they are right or wrong? Can we materially, a law can be materially good, but morally wrong. So these are really the question that pops up. Now we have history of science from Descartes to Newton that basically mapped out the entire universe, interactions, and of course, quantum mechanics later on, and subatomic sciences that describes every element in the universe, how they operate. Through scientific discoveries, we find all the even biological species of how they operate. So can we apply scientific concept to understand how people interact? So if scientific discoveries help us understand the importance of, can it help us understand the importance of morality? How can we apply scientific principle to understand abstract concept like people? Now, if the sciences allows us to do everything else, why not human being? Why can't we apply to human being or their decision-making process? If we discover everything else that has a formula. And how do we measure it, actually? So what we're trying to do is basically application of quantum mechanics in social sciences. So this is the roadmap that we want to do. We can predict majority of events in the universe, right? Physical reality with high degree of accuracy through scientific discoveries. Why is human behavior should not follow the same scientific principle? So we want to show the correlation of the physics, which has the same characteristics of a human society and see how the physics can correlate or quantum mechanics to a behavior of a group of people in a society. And that's the link that we're trying to create. So the discussion we have regarding finding right or wrong is based on scientific methodology. So let's look at the laser construction of in quantum mechanics. You have basically two mirrors on those sides. You have on the left side higher reflective mirror, on the right side partial reflective mirror. You have a source which generates photons, and a crystal which is the medium. And these photons are hitting the crystal in a very high-speed environment and bouncing back and forth between these two mirrors, and finally comes out uniformly. So what laser is telling us is that the source that was a pump that generated completely random photons through a methodology of resonance and resonator and medium agreed to uniformly follow a particular path, right? So now that means that you can, with the assumption that human beings are making random decisions and they have random beliefs based on, of course, many different factors, but there is a possibility that we can make them think the same way and do the same thing and predict how they're going to behave in the future. So let's see whether we can establish this relationship. So concept of information laser. So we had physical laser, and now we're discussing information laser. Quantum theory methods, particularly quantum information, have recently begun to be widely applied outside of physics in cognitive, social sciences, economics, finance, decision-making, and biology. The information laser is a quantum-like model that we propose. The fundamental assumption is the discrete structure of state spaces related to information quantization. The information field behaves similar to photons in the form of distinguishable quanta of social energy. The massive flow of data serves as a laser pump. An information selection process by agents under constant pressure of massive repeated information leads to collective resonance. Effects in this framework analogous to laser cavity and stimulated emission. So basically, we want to see that these social sciences, social network, and media that completely control the methodology of how people think and how people examine the data that they receive, and based on the data, they make their own opinion and decisions. Ironically, if you feed wrong information to a person, chances of them to make right decision is minimal. But in this busy life that we have, decision-making process has been shortened to level of TikTok, actually. If it's more than 3 minutes, people lose their attention. So the attention span is very, very low. Ironically, also, there is a phenomenon when people tend to follow the majority. A good example of it is this. In psychological studies, they actually created an experiment. They hired a bunch of actors and told them, when you enter an elevator, instead of facing the door, face the opposite wall. Now, interestingly, they did this experiment, and people that weren't aware of the experiment walking in and seeing majority of people or all of them are facing the opposite wall to the door, they actually comply, and they did the same thing because they thought, since everybody does it, I should do it too. So that's how the environment has influence in terms of decision making or accepting a law as good or bad, or right or wrong. So going back to our concept here of a social network and correlating this to basically individual, you have yellow people and green people. The yellow people are the ones that are quiet usually. They absorb something, but they don't like it, so they don't have any reaction. The green people here are the ones that not only they generate new ideas, but they propagate it to their friends, and those guys propagate it to their friends. So the pump here is the social media, is the pump. So we're gonna discuss radiation processors, those green guys, absorption, the yellow guys, spontaneous emissions, stimulated emissions, and mass media pump bias. So this is what we want to discuss. So this is the type of people that we have right now, human actors and bots. You have to be very careful. A lot of times when you get reinforced with your own ideas, a lot of them are not real people. It's the bots that the social media people release in the process to reinforce and keep people on their platform. So you have again, yellow people, this is radiation processor that don't usually initiate anything. Then you have green people. The yellow people absorb. The green people are the spontaneous originator of the idea. And then you have other people that like the idea and then they magnify it and send it to other people. Now, here we have mass media pump.
There's a question before we move on. It says, I have often heard people say that causation does not create correlation. Is that a way to say fact without stating something is a fact? I think the question should means correlation does not create causation. But anyway,
no, of course, but this is the whole point. The question, that's the beauty of artificial intelligence and machine learning language that is in use. It's in use in society today. It's in use in stock market. It's in economic forecast. It's population studies. So although we want to show here correlation, but the causation is the artificial intelligence that people are using today, which has the source of quantum mechanics, which is basically statistical probability of an event occurring. That's all it is. It's just a statistics. It tells you what is the percentage of an event that can occur, but it's in use. I just wanted to show the physical correlation and where it came from. It didn't come from thin air. The quantum mechanic has been in use in stock market, even in politics. It's heavily used in politics of which variables or items they should push for this election cycle that people respond the most to agree with them. And what are the variables? What are the coefficient of those variables that makes the formula and tilt the person toward their narrative versus the opposite group? But these are all in use today. So let's see whether we can prove it. Actually, it's a good question, a very good question. So you have green people, yellow people, absorption, and then we see whether we can create through this mass media a coherent social field. That means make them think the same way. And whether this, we can see it statistically that actually occurred or not. So here is the thing. You have a social media which polarizes of narratives on media. Okay? It's the same media, but targets completely opposite information to different groups. So you have people on the right, they get mass media pump right narrative. People on the left is receiving mass media pump left narrative. So what happens now, they create artificial prejudice and bias. So media, instead of being independent, which, by the way, this was one of the primary revelations to separate the media, be independent of any social or political groups, which is not the case anymore. So what happens now with these mass media pumping on the left and mass media, same media is pumping to two separate groups. Therefore, they reinforce their own idea and create a unified ideology, which is opposite of the other guys. And that's how polarization in society today is occurring. And we see it visibly, that the polarization exists. So this mass media, and of course the bots don't help their cause as well. And they say this message went viral. What does it mean? That means that somebody is repeating it. It may be a human or maybe a bot that is just sending it to many, many more people to make it more popular. So now you see why your society, our society today, is polarized, because none of the groups listen to each other, or they don't even hear the other position. So how does social media act as a resonator? A self-absorbed person does not wish to be told they're wrong, obviously, right? Media outlets understand this inherent selfish nature. When you worship your ego or yourself, you fall prey to media messages that are created to satisfy those desires. So this is unbalanced, polarizing media for self-absorbed people, generally. So what happens when somebody tells you you're wrong? A self-absorbed person does not want to be told that they have the wrong opinion. It seems natural that receiving feedback which validates your thoughts and ideas will always give you that profound sense of satisfaction, of being in the right and having people back you up. But when someone goes out of their way to tell you, hey, you're wrong, or I don't agree with you, it manages to throw you off guard, and not in a good way. It makes you uncomfortable about your original thoughts. It makes you second guess yourself. So this social media as EcoChamber, chamber for people to reinforce their own ideas. Flooded with polarizing opinions, social media platforms seems to have figured it out. And the last thing they want to happen is for their users to leave their sites feeling uncomfortable. Uncomfortable users lead to users leaving the platform altogether. And the ultimate goal for social network companies is to appeal to as many people as possible. Why is that? Because they sell advertising. So not only they can sell advertising to segregated groups that they targeted themselves and created themselves. They can ask for more dollars for the services they provide because they actually created society, not uniform society. And that's exactly what advertisers want. They don't want to sell basically contraception to the right or ecclesiastical societies, because it would be a waste. So as you see here, through an algorithm based on user preference, social media has allowed EcoChamber to flood their platforms. Companies have figured out ways to collect precise user site interaction data that allows social network platform to fill every individual feed to their liking. In this way, every user is offered a feed perfectly curated to their own interests, surrounded with users just like them, with similar opinion and goals. From this arises the problem of echo chamber on social media. Echo chambers occur when the same beliefs are repeatedly reinforced in a closed network of people harboring the same idea, thus shielding everyone in the network from disparaging rebuttals or from others who do not share the same belief. Now you see the correlation of this to the laser, those photons that are going back and forth, eventually they coalesce and come out as one beam. The same exact thing is occurring. So this was a massive picture of Facebook. This is 2 billion people. Now you see, unfortunately, this thing is, okay. On the left, you have liberal ideology, and in the middle is the middle moderates, and on the right, you see conservatives. You see? Now, if you look at compare liberals to conservatives, the areas on the conservative side, on the rightmost area, is almost empty on the liberal side. And this is really created by the artificial intelligence and machine learning language. This just wasn't charted because it's somebody's opinion. This tells you exactly what is happening. Now here you have the same way when on the top right corner of liberal, there is nothing on this conservative side. So now you see the moderates, which are basically the minority in these environments, is shrinking in the society very rapidly. When you're looking at half a century ago, majority of the people were, an ideology was in the middle. Today, they're the minority because they're influenced, people are influenced by these social media and advertising, and they either go to far left or they go to far right. Is that clear? So now you see the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning language that gives you data, which is highly accurate. And it's a byproduct of where the society is going toward polarization. So this was before, generally, majority of people were in the middle. And of course, polarization of media is slowly destroying that. So people are moving toward extreme ideology because majority of the people think like them, which is not true. So this is the bell curve that normally, again, majority falls into this this area, which is basically outside 1 time or 2 times standard deviation. But normally 50% of the ideas are the same across all the society. So this should be the curve of distribution of voting, for example. But in reality, this is where we are today. So dependent on either goes to the left, far left, and it goes to the far right. Instead of majority being in the middle, whether it's from left or right. So this sociodynamics that we were talking about is logical model. There's several, it's used in many different areas, artificial intelligence and basically machine learning language. It's a logistic model, which is exponential initial growth to saturation phase, like growth of a town. So there is a model, mathematical model, that formula that can tell you, and city planners use these models to predict what kind of resources they need for the population. Another one is diffusion model, which is distribution model like disease, how disease spreads, rumors, norms, technologies, knowledge. So you see these formulas exist and is in use. And this is application of quantum mechanics or quantum, or basically information laser in sociology in general. The third one is the gravity model, which is migration, exchange of goods, traffic volumes. So they can predict what time of the day in which intersection the left turn should be 2 minutes or 5 minutes. And based on, again, artificial intelligence, a massive data that they collect in terms of cars, and the variables that actually impacts it. Like, for example, from October to March, traffic in Florida is very high in Clearwater. So they put that as a variable to change how the red lights, the left turns or right turns come on and off. The fourth one is the game theory, which is social cooperation, social competition, optimum economic outcome. So these are really key elements that is used in basically politics, in Wall Street, in economic, banks use it all the time. And of course, decision model. And we're basically interested in the decision model itself, because that's really where our argument is. Can we use similar formulas? Looking at the massive data of the use of events that occur during the 19th and 20th century, and application of those revelation or secular laws that eventually was applied to society, would create right or wrong, would create advancement of society or degradation of society. So we can apply it. We have the data. All we need is artificial intelligence and feed this data into the computer. But we don't need to go to that detail. A lot of these revelation axiom or laws is visible completely, and we can provide those variables and prove that those revelation laws are right or wrong. So we're interested in this precision model. Obviously, we're slowly moving toward a moral society, but because secular society divorced itself from revelation, and they think the source of conflict is revelation, is religion. And obviously, they haven't been able to achieve this moral society that we all hope for. So the key really is to really examine these laws, and for ourselves, not to rely on our forefathers or our priests or basically gurus that talk about something and be able to decipher it for ourselves. Ultimately, we all have this position to agree with it, but not apply it. And ironically, happiness is knowledge of the truth, even if you don't adhere to it and accept the harm that it causes. At least you're happy that you knew about it. People get very distraught when they fall into a trap that they don't know about. Even when you go against the Holy Spirit or this efficient cause, you're still gonna be happy because you made the choice and nobody else did it for you. But if you're ignorant of the truth, you would be very angry. I think we should stop here and see whether there are questions. How much time do we have left?
We are at 12:04, so we have about almost 30 minutes.
Okay, great.
There is a question for you. There is a question for you that was posed. I was just trying to find a point to pose it. Now we can. The question is polarization a cause or an effect of the system? This question is, it seems like a chicken or egg situation. Is religion of God the software that essentially rewrites the hardware of humanity? Are we going to remove the need for the egg and function entirely from the chicken perspective of life? And the question again continues, another way to describe it, is polarization a feature or a bug of society?
No,
and
polarization is the outcome. It's the outcome of advancement of the basically media, which is primary goal of it is to enrich itself and its stockholders. That's what happens when you take morality or basically ethics out of a system. For making money, they have created polarization. The polarization didn't exist before invention of internet or Facebook, to a degree, of course, or polarization of news. If you watch certain channels, you see they strictly are for the left or they're strictly for the right. You don't see real news is production of narrative which is influenced by the advertisers of those channel medias. So polarization is not an accident or a bug. It's a byproduct of taking ethics out of your social system. Now, revelation doesn't have any material gain And that's what the difference is. You see, the media, that its goal is to enrich itself and adhere more and more population to his platform. That's their goal, because they can sell more advertising. So the more disunity they create, as segregate people into different branches, they can sell the space of advertising more lucratively, because they have identified a group that the companies can directly sell to. So that's why when you don't have a regulation right now, for example, these media companies are exempt from regulation. That's why you see this phenomenon of polarization occurring. If they put all the liabilities of newspaper in terms of publishing a false statement and narrative, and you can actually shut them down in civil court, but you can't do anything to Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, which majority of the young people below 30 are using, and they're getting their information from. The remedy to that is obviously regulation of these media, because they're public utility, the same way your electricity is a public utility. It has to be regulated. Imagine if you, for example, you have a cold weather this month, and because it's too cold and you have to turn on your thermostat, they charge you 10 times more money for that month because they can, right? So now utility company cannot do that because the government regulates them. If the demand goes up, they cannot raise their prices. And they cannot mislead the public. They cannot segregate. They cannot give different rate of electricity or capacity of electricity to rich people versus poor people. They can't do that. But this social media, they can, and they do. And that's the reason the polarization has occurred. And will occur until they get regulated. Any other questions?
Thank you so much for explaining that. And just a question about where we're headed. This subject that you've discussed now, it's an introduction for a session that you're holding on Mondays, correct?
Yes, we're trying to examine whether, first of all, correlation of the revelation to scientific method, and see whether application of those makes society progress or digress. And that's really the key. But the ultimate goal is to teach people how to decipher what is right or wrong for themselves, instead of relying on other people or follow the masses. How do we form opinion? You see, the point is, if a person is in abusive relationship as a child in a family, when they grow up, they really think that's normal. But that's not the reality. So normal to people may be wrong. And the only way you can decipher this is through education and showing those laws, like equality of men and women, abolition of slavery, abolition of child labor, abolition of race or gender equality, discrimination against race or gender. These are spiritual laws and law of the land. But do people adhere to it? As we know, we discussed the United Nations and individual rights that actually Baha'i NGO, non-governmental agency, first non-governmental agency in United States that helped to form those ideologies, which over 180 countries were signatory to it. But when you go to the world today, majority of those countries do not apply those laws that they agreed to. Why? Because again, the ethics and revelation has been taken out of the secular society. And this is the result of it.
Thank you for that. So another question is, if you may, what is the topic tomorrow? Since the session is going to happen tomorrow, what is the topic tomorrow that is going to be spoken about?
Yeah, I believe we're trying to, again, I may not be present, but let me show you some of the slides.
Thank you.
Sure. Sorry. Okay, really equity and justice. And this is one of the pillars of the Baha'i religion. Now, the equity, what does equity mean generally? The quality of being fair and impartial. Now, do you see currently in the most advanced culture, Western culture in the United States, do you see equity and justice? It's being violated in every aspect of the society. People are using the law to selectively apply and harm the other group, whether it's left or right. They're using the law, an obscure one to be exact, to attack the other side. And they think it's a fair game. So law by itself, if it's not applied properly and doesn't comply with the equity and justice, will not work. And our societies, again, is going toward that process. And what is the motivation of humanity or humans or in general to apply this if they don't get immediate benefit from it? Now you see in our political systems, anything goes, and they don't care whether they get caught or not. People, the mentality is, I do something, if I get caught, I pay the fine for it, but I did damage anyways. So this mentality is wrong, obviously. And this is really what we want to talk about, which are essence of an ethical society. And the reason we're moving away from it today is because of the revelation has been taken out of the secular society. And of course, justice. So these are the two elements. Now the question is, if people that can do atrocities in this realm and get away with it, right? What would entice them to really not to do that? What would be the basically carrot and stick that prevents humans from doing something wrong? Although maybe legally they can do that and they can get away with it. I believe that's where the religion comes in, or revelation. Revelation says that your spirit, your being is your spirit. It's not your body that is going to disappear after a certain time. And you would carry all your actions, events in your future life. And you would be judged based on it, and the veils would be taken away in the other world. That means that everybody would see what you did. I think it's a very good deterrent. So people, not only for their benefit in this world, they follow the Holy Spirit for efficient cause, they would follow it because of the next or continuation of this perpetual life that started at the time of conception, going into the spiritual realm. Okay.
Thank you so much for this. So we have about almost 10 minutes left. I think it's good for us to explain what everyone can expect for the next week going ahead and what sessions we have. So tomorrow we have the subject of today, the roadmap for a moral society. It's a session that occurs every Monday at 7 p.m. And tomorrow's topic will be about justice and equity. Now, there are other sessions we host, such as the Sunday sessions at 11 a.m. All are welcome to join. And next Sunday, we'll have another speaker with another different topic. And we appreciate that if you go to clearwaterbahais.org, that you click on the Zoom link and you register. And we will be very happy to send you an email with the Zoom link info. Further, there's another session we're going to be having this week, a little special as well as this one today. On Tuesday, we're going to have a fireside with our guest visitor, Mr. Steve Sarowitz. And all are welcome to come in person to the Baha'i Center. This will be an in-person event, and we plan to also stream it online live. Further, on Wednesday, we will have our continued study of the Kitab-i-Iqan. It is a session that is hosted, facilitated, and taught by Mr. Peter Terry. He has already made a few sessions through this book. You're welcome to go on YouTube on Clearwater Baha'is, the channel, or on our website, clearwaterbaha'is.org, or just on the Baha'i Center of Clearwater Facebook page to find the previous sessions if you wish to catch up. But it's also equally valuable to join your first session this Wednesday, as Mr. Peter Terry will be continuing through the Kitab-i-Iqan, and it's very valuable, as the Kitab-i-Iqan in English, called the Book of Certitude, is the theological basis for what we believe, and we assert is the basis for religion throughout history and progressive revelation as it has flowed until today. And in Baha'u'llah's words, this is the eternal faith of God. No, this is the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future. the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future.
John, Diana raised her hand. If you have few minutes, maybe we can address her concern.
Yes, Diana, please.
Yes, aloha. Aloha, John and Gilbert. Thank you for this session. I just wanted you to know that the email that is sent out to us when we register on it, the link that, well, I can only talk for myself, that I got today didn't work. So there may be a bug. Maybe that's why there's so few people, because the registration that we get to do on that email, the link that we get, it doesn't allow us to get in. I had some difficulty, and I had to go on the Clearwater website, and from there I was able to get the link, and it was a completely different number. So you might want to look into this. And my suggestion is, why don't we just use the same number link all the while? Because if it keeps changing, it gets very confusing. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention that the registration that we get isn't working. It doesn't allow us to get to the link, and it says waiting for host to let you in, and we wait and wait and wait. It's just, I said that's very unusual. So I had to try a different way. So you
No,
might
wait, you got in and it said waiting for host to let you in?
Yes, you know, when it goes around and around and around.
So that was the waiting room. And when did you enter the waiting room? If you could please let me know.
I entered the waiting room at around maybe 3 minutes after 11, 5 minutes after, something like between 5 and 7 minutes after 11. And I noticed.
But it was a different link as well.
Yeah, it was the link that it says, you know, thank you for registering. Here is a link. It didn't work. So I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And then I said, let me try the Clearwater website. And, you know, you have it through there. And it was a completely different link. It was just a number without the passcode. And it was, anyway, it's.
I think we can take this on the side.
Yeah, it's probably why so many people didn't come. Thank you.
Thank you for explaining that, Diana. I appreciate it. We'll definitely discuss this and try to get to the bottom of it. Thank you very much. Regina, thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. Regina says, absolutely brilliant presentation. You have given us a language to explain how we are impacted by media and influencers. Thank you, Regina. We appreciate that as well. So with that being said, it's about time. Mr. Hakeem, do you have anything to close out with, or do you want us to close?
I wish everybody a nice week coming, and see you again. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.